I'm rusty. Hey guys. You'll have to excuse the half-finished background, probably questionable lighting, possibly questionable sound. I just can't know. Anyways, I thought I would jump on and do a little bit of a life update while we get just cute day ready, you know? So let's do it. I haven't plucked my eyebrows in I don't know how long, but here's the thing. I keep seeing photos on Pinterest where I'm like, I kind of like when people don't pluck their eyebrows completely. Let me see if I can find a picture. Okay, like this right here. See, it's not like completely like perfectly manicured plucked, and she looks great. I mean, arguably she probably would look great regardless of like what was going on with her eyebrows, but I don't know. I just think like a world where I don't have to pluck my eyebrows as much sounds like a world that I want to live in. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm pregnant. And if you may remember, depending on how long you've followed me for, during my last pregnancy, my skin really changed a lot. I started to I've always had acne and stuff like that since I was probably 20. But then during my last pregnancy, I developed rosacea. It was mostly just from what I remember, redness more than anything. Pretty intense redness, but not really a ton of texture. This pregnancy, photos will never, ever, ever truly do justice to just how bizarre my skin got. I honestly, it's hard for me to even describe because it was so dry, scaly, flaking dry, so much redness, so many whiteheads and zits and stuff like that. But it was just the most bizarre texture. The worst my skin has ever been, by a landslide, I would say. It was so painful. It was just crazy. I just couldn't believe how my body was responding to this pregnancy. I'm gonna be using the Lunar Beauty and Laura Lee palette today. I don't receive very much PR these days, but I do receive PR from Manny, so I thought I would test this out. But anyways, it was crazy. I was reaching out to my GP. I was asking her, is there anything I can do for my skin? And she was like, honestly, no developments medically since last time you were pregnant, it would seem. She was like, I don't think so, unfortunately. So I asked my midwives. They said essentially the same thing. No, they didn't really have anything they could recommend. And then I was walking in this quaint little town called Fort Langley, and I walked past this place called Raw Canvas Skin Bar. And I was reminded that many moons ago, the lady who owns it, her name's Samantha, she had reached out to me on Instagram, and she was like, hey, if you ever, want to chat skin, I think I could help you. And I didn't respond because I'm atrocious at responding to anything. I was like, I'm just gonna reach out to her and see if there's any chance that she feels like she can help me during pregnancy. She was like, yeah, come in. And so she put me on this whole skincare lineup. And so when I first started using the skincare, my skin was unbelievably sensitive. But I was shook. Within, I think it was 4 days, 3 days even, that I felt I started to notice a difference texture-wise. But within March, April, May, yeah, within 2 months, my skin was completely different. It's crazy. So we were doing the skincare, and we started doing some laser as well, which I had cleared by my GP to do during pregnancy. And she said she was comfortable with me doing that. And so we did 2 types of laser. We did Forever Clear BBL, it's called. And then we did Laser Genesis, I think it's called. So the Forever Clear one is for acne bacteria, from what I understand. And then the Laser Genesis was for redness and collagen production, and my mind's escaping me, other skin things, scarring, I think. But wow, the 2 in conjunction, well, I guess the 3 of the 2 lasers and then the skincare in conjunction, I'm shocked. Like, I kind of, before I had reached out to Amanda, I was like, yes, this is just my life during this pregnancy. Like, I don't think this is gonna be resolved, so I guess that's just where we're at. But yeah, it just keeps getting better and better, and I'm pretty pleased about it. Like, I'm very happy with where my skin is at right now. Like, I still have redness and stuff like that, and I still have like the average pimple or like whitehead coming in, but God, it is just like leaps and bounds from where it was. It's crazy. And then back to this other fact of life, which is that I'm pregnant. I think the last time I uploaded was November. Listen, we don't need to get into it. I will give you the briefest rundown ever of what was going on throughout the last several months. I think either right before I uploaded last or right after. I have permission to talk about this as well. Matt had relapsed, and that was a whole fucking thing, obviously. Which was really difficult for him. It was really difficult for me, difficult for our relationship, obviously. And then the 6 months following that was like not an enjoyable ride. Like, we just were fighting a lot. I felt like we were just like not able to figure anything out between each other anymore. Like, we were like really struggling to communicate. And then at the same time, there was just like a lot going on work-wise for me that was like kind of stressful, not kind of stressful, extremely stressful. And then also, I think I talked about in my last video that I was like struggling to get pregnant. And so this was all going on at the same time where I was still trying to get pregnant. It just was not happening. It was so bizarre. Like, the first time I got pregnant, I had gone off my birth control, and like literally in a week I was pregnant. And also, like, I was feeling, conflicted because like I wanted to have another kid, but also like all this shit was going on with us. In the back of my mind, I was like, is this the best time? Like, I just don't know. But ultimately, I ended up calling my doctor to make an appointment to just kind of like check in and see, like, is there something going on? Is there like a reason that I'm struggling to get pregnant? And then the next day I found out I was pregnant. It was like just so many conflicting feelings at once. Pretty shortly thereafter, like I think within 2 weeks of finding out I was pregnant, I started bleeding. First of all, potential trigger warning, talking about pregnancy complications, fear of like the loss of a pregnancy, and then spoiler alert, everything's fine. But anyway, so I had started bleeding. I called my GP, and she was like, we'll try and get you in for an ultrasound, but like it's still so early that we're gonna have to wait a little bit because like they're not gonna be able to see anything. Like, it was like very, very early days. So I had to wait a couple weeks, and then went in for my ultrasound finally at like, I think 8 weeks or something. I'm gonna use my clouded half lash today, I think. I just want like just a little something, So then when I went in for that ultrasound, like heartbeat was there and everything, which is great. And then my midwife, when she got back the results of this ultrasound, she noticed that I had a subchorionic hematoma, which is like basically bleeding between the placenta and the uterus. I still don't know what's going on. There was a lot coming my way at this point in life. Pregnancy already comes with like can come with so much like anxiety and just like confusion and not knowing what's going on and not knowing if it's normal, because like if you look it up, everything's normal. And everything is not normal at all, and you need to go to a hospital right now. And then, kind of shortly thereafter, Matt and I had a moment. We legitimately almost got divorced. Well, separated. In Canada, you have to be separated for a year, and then you can divorce after that. But yeah, we separated for about a week with like the thought that it was going to be literally forever, like that we were just like done. We were actually done. And so I stayed at my parents' house for a night, and then I went back to our house Matt left and I was alone at the house with our child. I think like 2 days later, I had been bleeding pretty consistently, but just like, like a little bit of spotting, like whatever, like nothing crazy. And then I started really bleeding. And so I got my dad to come watch our kid. And then I went into the hospital with my mom that night. I believe when I was there, they were like, oh, yeah, your placenta is low lying. So, you have this subchorionic hematoma and you've got this like low lying placenta, and that's just what's causing it. But like, you're fine. Then the next day, I was bleeding during the day, if I recall, and then at night I had gone to the bathroom and there was like tissue in the toilet. Sorry, this is like very graphic. There was probably like 15 or 20 pieces of like this like pink tissue that had like veins in it. And the largest of which, like a lot of them were like kind of like dime sized. And then there was one piece that was like quarter sized and then one that was probably like loony or toonie size, which is our like $1 and $2 coin. They're big. They're pretty fucking big. I think I called my midwife and I was like, hey, I went into the hospital yesterday. I was bleeding, blah, blah. This is what's going on now. And then she was like, I'd go into the hospital. And so my child at this point was already asleep. It was like later into the evening. And so my parents came over to watch them. And then I went to the hospital by myself. And like first of all, the night before when I was in the hospital, I was sitting with my mom and I was like, I can't believe the feeling of like stress that I have right now. It was just like the most overwhelming, like physical feeling ever. Like I've had moments of stress obviously in my life, but like this was just like I felt it in every single fiber of my being. Like it was just the most insane feeling ever. Like I was like, I just actually can't believe all the shit that's happening right now and that this is all happening at once. Then the next night when I was driving to the hospital by myself, I was literally just on repeat thinking like, I already know they're going to tell me I lost the baby and I just need to like hold it together until I can get back out to the car and like be by myself and then like I can just like let it go, like have my cry on the way home and like I just need to like hold it together until I can get to the parking lot basically. And so I was like just getting myself prepared for them to just like confirm what I feel like I already knew. Like I was like there's no way everything's fine basically. Oh, and also when I was going in, my midwife was like, when you go in, advocate for yourself. When you go into the ER, tell them you need like this test and this test and this test, and that your midwife asked for it to be done. And so I went in, and first of all, this is just like a side bitch thing about how much I feel like women aren't taken seriously. The way that like the ER is kind of set up is that like they have you come in, you like check in, you tell them what's going on, they have it like on paperwork, and then you take that paperwork, and depending whether or not you're vaccinated, you have to like go to different areas of the hospital, and then also like they'll put you in different areas based on like how urgent they feel like the issue is, kind of thing. So they make you take the clipboard with the paperwork to the next room, like of wherever they send you. And so I went in and they were like, what's going on? I was like, yesterday, I'm pregnant. Yesterday I was bleeding quite heavily and having like blood clots and stuff like that. And then today I'm like losing like a pretty substantial amount of tissue when I'm like going to the washroom. They were like, okay, great. Well, they didn't say great. They were like, thanks. They put it on the paperwork. They handed me the clipboard. And then when I was walking to the next section, I looked at, it said like reason for admittance or whatever. And it said light spotting. And I was like, if this isn't a perfect example of like how much the medical industry sometimes is just like, you're fine, you know what I mean? But anyway, so I went in, they did a bedside ultrasound, saw the heartbeat, and then the doctor, nurse, or I can't remember who he was, in the ER was like, yeah, the heartbeat's there, you're fine. And I was like, okay, great. My midwife had asked that we do these other tests, so can we do these tests? And he was like, well, if your midwife wants those done, she can do them herself. And I was like, okie dokie, okay. And then this was all within a week, okay? So Matt and I separate the 2 hospital visits, and then Matt and I were like talking about, like talking through our issues and stuff like that. So he was over at the house. He had said that he was like feeling sick, and he had been in to like see our therapist, and our therapist was like, well, did you test for COVID? And he was like, no, because anytime I'm sick, I test for COVID, and it's never fucking COVID, and blah, blah, blah. So he was like, I just didn't like think to do it, but he was like, maybe I should just test. And I was like, yeah, you should. So he went and got a test, and it was in fact COVID. So then me and our kid got COVID. I was like beyond sick. It was miserable. Like oh my God. And like, again, it was just like, this has been the longest fucking week of my entire life. Like, and just so much stress, so much going on. It was just misery. Anyways, we're working through it. Everything's fine. Back together. Better than ever. From there, pregnancy-wise, I was still having bleeding pretty consistently. And then finally my midwives, they had said like, we want to get you in to do an internal ultrasound to see if like we can see anything else that we're not seeing on the external ultrasound. I was going to basically any ultrasound clinic that could get me in. And so I had gone to like 2 or 3 different clinics when we started doing all of this testing. And then one of the appointments, like the 3rd or whatever appointment, was at, I guess I can just say the name of the place. It's called Jim Pattison Outpatient Center. I went in there and had an ultrasound with this doctor. She was just like one of a bunch of like ultrasound clinics that would like take me. And when I went into her, she was like, your records are all over the place. Like, some of the ultrasound clinics are submitting the records, some of them aren't submitting the records. So like, I can't really like even follow like what's going on. And she was like, she was like, I don't like this. Like, I feel like you just need to be at like one place, and like, we just need to like get this figured out for you. This doctor was the best doctor ever. Like, first of all, she booked, throughout this pregnancy, I've had to have ultrasounds every 2 weeks for months. And she booked all of those appointments with her so that I would only be going to the one clinic, the one doctor. Because the other thing she was saying is that she was like, I feel like, first of all, we can't like properly track what's going on because like we don't have, like, people aren't submitting the records, and some of them are submitting the records to your GP, and some of them are submitting records to your midwife. And so like, it's just like this whole cluttered mess. But then also she was like, what I'm worried about is that like, everyone you go into is going to be giving you different advice in terms of like what they think you should be doing or not doing or whatever. So she was like, I just really like want to like make it like simpler so that you're not having all this like conflicting advice and you're just like going with like one person kind of thing. And so she was like, I'd like that to be here. Are you okay if I do that? And I was like, yes, this is a dream. I had all my future ultrasounds with her. And like every single time I went in for the ultrasound, I would be there for like an hour, which sounds like misery, but it was honestly a delight. And we would do every 2 weeks the external ultrasound and then an internal ultrasound. And she let me watch the whole time. I'm a ultrasound expert, frankly, now. And she would like show me like every little like body part. And she would like take so many pictures the whole time. They had like the ability to do 3D ultrasounds there, which I've never done before. Like I didn't do it at all in the last pregnancy. And she would like hook up the 3D one. She was like, I'm just gonna get some pictures quickly. And she would like take pictures every time. So I have like a million ultrasound pictures, like a million friggin' like 3D ultrasound pictures. And it was just like such an enjoyable experience, frankly, for what was not a very enjoyable health issue. What we found through doing these 8 billion ultrasounds is that my placenta was actually like placenta previa, so it was like fully covering the cervix, which can be fine, or it can cause like issues down the road if it doesn't like move out of the way as the baby gets bigger, basically. And that did clear up. The placenta has moved out of the way, but also what they found is that my cervix is short and is continuing to shorten over time throughout this pregnancy. Which, if you recall, I made a video talking about how I had to have a LEEP procedure done. And the LEEP procedure was done to basically remove precancerous cells from my cervix. And at the time that I had that done, they were like, oh, you could have risk of like complications in like your like next pregnancy. You could have a harder time getting pregnant. You could have like a slightly increased risk of like stillbirth and miscarriage and blah, 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 blah. And like possibly like it could like shorten your cervix, or you could have incompetent cervix, which is where your cervix dilates when it's not supposed to. And so I posted this video at the time talking about this and talking about how like that was what that doctor had said to me, is that like, you know, like these are all potential things. And that video, I want to say it had like 2,000 comments on it. I got so many messages because I was basically saying in that video, I was like, it just sucks that like I was really excited at the premise of like getting pregnant again and feeling like I would kind of know what was going on. Like obviously every pregnancy is different, but like that I would be not as like fearful and like maybe able to like enjoy the pregnancy a little bit more and stuff like that. My eyebrow is so fucking dry. I have eczema in this eyebrow for some reason. And anyways, it's just a fucking thing, but regardless, that I was just kind of like basically mourning the loss of like not having a slightly less anxiety ridden like pregnancy. Because now things have changed basically, and I could potentially have like a pregnancy with difficulties and stuff. And I got so many comments and so many DMs of people being like, a lot of people being like very lovely and like trying to make me feel better and trying to reassure me and stuff like that. But also a lot of people being like, you're like fear mongering, and like my aunt had this surgery and she went on to have 3 kids, no problem. And but like people kind of being like, why are you like making it seem like, because LEEP procedures are quite common, like why are you making it seem like this is like an issue when it's not? So to those people, here we are with those exact complications that she warned me as a potential could happen. So because of my shortened cervix, that ultrasound doctor, she just is a doctor. She's not only an ultrasound doctor, but anyways, she recommended I go on pelvic rest. So like no sex, nothing in the vagina. And then also like to be not, you know, doing heavy lifting and all of that kind of stuff. So that's what my pregnancy has kind of looked like for the most part. And anytime I broke those rules, I immediately started bleeding the next day. So yeah, that's kind of been what's been going on. It's been a very like just kind of scary like experience. And as a result of all of this, my doctors and midwives and therapist actually has advised that I take it easy. So I instead decided to pack up my house and move again. So that's why we have a new background. We moved to an island, okay? And this island it's not remote. Like there's things here. It's accessible by ferry. There's no hospital here. So what am I doing? I don't know. And the issue now is that I still have a short cervix. And because I have a shorter cervix, it puts me at higher risk for preterm labor. So I can't really be 100% sure when this baby's happening. My due date is September 6th. So we're just gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see what happens. I'll keep you updated, obviously. I don't want to give birth on a ferry, to be honest. It's like not really on my list of things to do. But anyways, yes, we moved. It was a very sudden thing that happened. We had actually been looking at this house that we're in now probably like a year ago. And we were like, oh, it's so beautiful. Like that'd be so cool if we could ever like afford to have like a summer home or something. It'd be so cool to like have that. But we weren't like even moderately entertaining the idea of moving here. And then I'm not 100% sure exactly what came over us, but we just were like, let's go see it. You know, let's just go take a little peek. And that was pretty much it. We went home that day and started to get like a little bit more serious about possibly moving here. And then we were like, you know, like what we can do is like just, we'll put our house up for sale, see what happens, and then, you know, we can make a decision. And so we also, at that time, were like, let's try and convince my parents to move here too, because on the property, there's also a cottage that has like a kitchen and a bathroom and all that kind of stuff. Like it's, you know, like a fully set up thing. So anyways, we sold our house within 10 days, convinced my parents to move to an island. This all happened from conception of like, let's consider this, to us moving to the island was 2 months. It was a very quick and sudden turnaround. And the most stressful move of my entire life, as a quick aside, we launched Travel Size Glow Lust. You guys have been asking for this for an extremely long time. It's so precious. I'm gonna put on selenite. I have like a little bit of like a breezy tan right now. It may not look like it, but it feels like it. I've been having lots of beautiful outdoor time. Anyways, this move, like I said to Matt after it happened, I was like, I've moved, I think 11 times in the past 12 years since I moved to Vancouver. I can't do it again. Which I talked about moving briefly on Instagram, and a few people were like, didn't you move last time you were pregnant? No, I packed last time I was pregnant. We moved with a newborn, and it was actually fine. It was not the worst thing ever. Packing and moving while pregnant with a toddler, not advisable. I'm gonna use this spray from One Size. It is so scented, but damn does it work. It's a mattifying waterproof setting spray. I don't find that it makes me like super, super matte, but again, like I'm not like the oiliest person in the world. So maybe like when you're oily, like it really like shows up for you in that way. But wow, it just like, it makes your makeup last like wild. Like my makeup for the most part like melts off my face because I just like to use only creams. And I just always was like, I don't care. But then I used this once and I was like, holy shit. Like I've never ever used a setting spray that worked as well as this. Is it good for my skin? I would assume not, but it works great. It's so strong. Like it's pretty brutal. So the move itself just like was a couple days situation, but then also we, I'm gonna put on just Plush Ritual. This one's actually a mix of ripe and bare. So it looks like this. It's perfect, honestly. I love it. I need like a little bit of a lip liner. Where even are my lip liners? Getting settled in this house has been just an extremely long process. I'm filming this on a Tuesday, and on Thursday, it will have been 4 weeks. We're still unpacking boxes and just like getting settled in. It's just been a very different move. I think because like in our last move, our baby was still taking 3 naps a day and was like a really good napper. Things are just different. You know, we have a 2-year-old now. It ain't the same. It ain't the same. Anyways, that's my life update. That's what's been going on since I last uploaded in November. It will be good to chit chat with you guys in the comments. Thanks for hanging out and listening. And I hope that you guys are all doing well, that you've had a good last 9 months, and see you soon.